Welcome back, everybody, to the 21st episode of Battle of the Ballads. The year is 2007, and I'm really sad we didn't do a little celebration for our 20th episode. I didn't realize it until I posted it that we were actually that deep.
I mean, it makes sense, but I don't think I realized it either.
I mean, when you're having as much fun as we are, it just flies through.
Props to us. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time after 20 episodes, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more content, because I think we have 21 more in us if I calculated correctly, and I probably didn't because I'm not a math guy.
How are we only at 20?
Because the 80s we combined.
Oh, that's right, we did.
Yeah. And we're about to close out the 2010s in a few more episodes and then leave it up to everybody else to vote, and we'll see if we go with their pick or not. My guess is we won't, but we'll see what they say.
Unless it's one of mine, the answer is no.
It's been a blast, and actually I was not the least bit excited going into this year. I think for the years moving on, I'm going to have certain songs I really gravitate towards. But there were a few debuts this year that I thought were much sooner than they were, so I was excited to finally get to them, because I love the artists and I love talking about the songs, and they will be on pretty much every year from now on. So I'm really excited for those. But I was also really excited. I don't know if you had a chance to look at everybody's lists, but we had, I think, probably the most diverse list that we've received thus far.
Yeah, this is an interesting year. I was excited to see what everyone else is liking, because I was telling Joe this morning, I think even before he started his list, I have more debuts this year than I have like my own songs. And it's nothing about the quality of the music. This year was a great year in music, but it wasn't a great year in music for me. Like, these are all songs I enjoy when I hear this year, but they're not like songs that I go to now today, with very few exceptions. So it was an interesting year for me, because this is the first like quasi down year. I know you had one in the 90s, Dan, that you thought was a pretty down year, but this is the first one for me. But at the same time, two of my favorite albums of all time came out this year too. So
that's where I'm at. And I was looking at Joe's playlist. I'm like, wow, it really wasn't that bad of a year of music. It just wasn't one of those like in your face, how do I sort through these 90 songs I loved? It was one of those, there's about 30 I really enjoyed, and they're really good.
It was a great dance year in music, though. I mean, from like indie pop dance to like just straight up R&B bangers. Like, this is a great year for dance. And I think a lot of these songs are probably still in like heavy rotation in dancey places, if those things exist in a post-COVID world.
It was also the year for women singer-songwriters making the pop charts, which there's a few artists that I thoroughly enjoy and absolutely love and are on my bucket list to see or see again, and they just burst on the scene in this year. So I'm really much more excited about 2007 than I thought I would be.
Yeah, as I was going through, I kind of noticed that, I mean, there's a lot of things I like and a lot of bands and stuff I like, but there weren't a lot that I thought there was the best ones they've produced. Like, even take the Foo Fighters, for example, right? They had an album this year, but the best song, or my favorite song off it, Long Road to Ruin, is not as good as pretty much, the best songs off of any of the other albums. And I felt like that happened a lot as I was going through this, where I'm like, well, I like this band, but I know either they've got better music coming up or they've already produced better music. And so it was kind of like, man, I don't know what's going to be my song this year. I actually struggled because of that reason. Like, I just don't think none of the songs on this year actually stood out and were like, yeah, this is my song this year.
And coincidentally, you mentioned the Foo Fighters, and Paul Brenner said that Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace came out that year, and it's probably his second or third favorite Foo album. And The Pretender may have been one of the best rock songs released that year. So it's funny that you went to the Foo Fighters, because that was the first comment we had on our audience comments. So that's a nice segue there.
But again, like, the third best Foo Fighters album isn't super high praise for 2007, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I like all of the Foo Fighter albums, but when you're like, yeah, Foo Fighters had the best rock song of that year and it came off their third best album, like, oh, okay, great. Like, that's like a backhanded compliment, right?
Could just be that the rest are so masterful that you can't top them. Paul also gave us MGMT's Oracular Spectacular album. Kids, Time to Pretend, and Electric Feel, all super great singles. I actually thought Electric Feel came out like years before, so I totally forgot about that. He also said, and I actually really enjoyed this, said it was the year that he withdrew from college and decided to pursue being a full-time touring musician. First tour in a van, driving around the country, sleeping on strangers' floors. It was a great year. And, they've been on, talk shows, award shows, concert tours. They're, performed with some really excellent bands and stuff. So testament to our guy from Rochester who, quit college to pursue some dreams and actually had those dreams come to fruition. I always love to see that. Our guy, Tony D. Romanis, I was not the least bit surprised when he gave us 6 a.m. Life is Beautiful. His tracks are always in like the same wheelhouse, but I really appreciate that because of how passionate he is about like that genre. Like he's going to single-handedly keep grunge alive. I'm all
passionate about that genre, but so encouraging to everyone else in the music they love too.
Mm-hmm. He just loves music and it's amazing. Sherry Nutter Timothy gave us a list that I was a little surprised about because it's kind of off of her normal beaten path. Nowhere from Jordan Sparks, Give Me More from Britney, Gunpowder and Lead from Miranda, Girlfriend from Avril, Don't Stop the Music Rihanna, and No One from Alicia Keys. She said, I decided to go with the girl power list. And what a list that is, all those songs in the same year. That's just...
Of the people that gave lists and not just like one or two tracks or a whole album, that was my favorite list composed that we were given this year.
I think so too. That was like definitely the most eclectic, but it was also one of those where it's like that right there on its own is a nice like drive to the store playlist that I could actually roll with. Corey Banker, who, if you have not checked out his 3D printing stuff, seriously check it out. He doesn't even do it for business. He just does it for his kids for Comic-Cons, and it's absolutely incredible. He said he'd have to go with his favorite song is No One from Alicia Keys, but also needs to mention Teardrops on My Guitar from Taylor, Umbrella from Rihanna, Keep Holding On from Avril, which I just listened to the Glee version for like the 1,000th time today. And then the video of the year goes to Beyonce and Shakira for Beautiful Liar. I was wondering if that won video of the year. I know that they performed it. Justin Zane gave us, he said he's been going by when the song's released by Wikipedia, not when the album comes out. So sharing kind of his take on where the tracks come from. Cold War Kids, Hang Me Up to Dry. Totally forgot about that song. So when he listened to that, I actually listened to it again, forgot how much I liked it. Snow Patrol, Open Your Eyes and Shut Your Eyes. 2-song run that sounds like Directions. Oh, he's going with the 2-song runs, Gregory.
It's catching on. I'm a tastemaker, folks.
It's about to be a hashtag. Boys Like Girls, The Great Escape. Taylor, My Future Ex-Wife Swift. Our Song, Finger 11, Paralyzer. Paramore, Misery Business. Arcade Fire, Keep the Car Running. Angels and Airwaves, Everything's Magic. And Five Finger Death Punch, The Bleeding. Mal Bynum gave us Icky Thump from the White Stripes. My guy Dan Askey gave us Ernie Learns to Put Down the Ducky from Sesame Street. Always notable. Jeremiah Perry Hill gave us Rihanna, Umbrella, and Amy Winehouse Rehab. And then Ellen closed us out. I actually got a nice visit from a friend of the show, Ellen, this weekend. She popped out to drop off some donations for Pops for Patients, and we had a nice chat. And we hadn't seen each other since Hootie and the Blowfish concert in 2019. So it was really nice to catch up and see her. Awesome. She said Josh Groban's Christmas album, Noel, A Gift to Humankind. We'll always beg to differ on our Josh Groban opinions, but I will always love her enthusiasm for him.
I like Josh Groban as an actor from his appearance on Always Sunny, but not a huge fan of him as a musician. So
he's got some really good comedic chops on him.
Yes.
We got Umbrella from Rihanna, Stay from Sugarland, No One from Alicia Keys. If you're reading this, Tim McGraw, Love Song from Sarah Bareilles, Taking Chances from Celine Dion, Everything from Michael Bublé, Back in Black from Amy Winehouse, Home from Daughtry, and I Told You So from Keith Urban. So many of the same players that make her list oftentimes. So it was a great year for Ellen in music. And this was actually my shortest list this year. And my top 5 was a no-brainer for me, but it was still fun reminiscing with some of these tracks. So Joseph, you want to, actually, Gregory, we need debuts. We talked them up so much that I thought we already talked about them. What do we got for debuts this year, my friend?
Quickly, before we get into, our 45th, 60th minute, if you're watching this, please like, comment, subscribe. Some made up percentage of people who watch YouTube videos aren't subscribed to that channel. So please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe.
Were you paying attention when Dan already asked people to do that?
I wasn't, apparently, because I missed it completely.
Yeah, he said after, if you're just tuning in for our 20th episode, he said, so.
Oh, yeah, I was so hung up on the 20th episode part.
Like, so excited.
It's based on everything else.
Saved by the Bell, you're so excited, you're so scared.
Okay, yeah. Now, before I get into debuts, if you guys could like, subscribe, share, comment. No, but this is a kind of a spur of the moment thing. After I composed my list, I was thinking about this year in music and how many best of. So I don't have like a complete list, but just some of the best of releases this year. Like the band McFly released a best of. Godsmack released a best of. They're 10 years in. They released a best of. Jay-Z, there's Tupac was a volume 1 and 2. Nas, so you have Nas and Jay-Z doing it, and also they recorded a track together for American Gangster. It was, who else? There were so many. Barry Manilow had a best of. My favorite was Common released an album and a best of album this year. It's just insane number of best ofs. Like, go check it out. This was a year of best ofs.
That was when all the
there was
record
a-
label fights started, and they had like that one single they wanted to release. So to get around that, they had to do like a best of. It's like, hey, you have 2 albums, give us a best of, then you can let your single out to the world.
Amy Grant released a best of too, which is kind of like, in my experience working at a used store, if you're an Amy Grant fan, you own everything. So did you need a best of? But good for her, still get that money, because that's usually what a best of is a money grab. So
Well, I think there was another David Bowie compilation that came out this year too, which up to this point, there's probably been 30 different best of David Bowie albums.
yeah, there definitely was a compilation. I didn't check to see if it was a best of or if it had some like unreleased or some outtakes or stuff, because we'll get into it. But Elliott Smith had a release of like unreleased tracks. Most of them are different versions of tracks that didn't make the albums and everything. And that was like a double CD. So there was a lot of insane like releases this year for best ofs. But debuts, there's a lot of good notable debuts this year too. The Bird and the Bee, which is a band I'd heard of but never heard, so I actually listened to them. Didn't make my list, but it's a fun like lo-fi techno album. But that name, since it's a male and female duo, The Bird and the Bee, is brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Jamie T, Catherine McPhee's debut album was this year. The Horrors, who are a British like rock band. Sick Puppies, Corbin Bleu, like the 4th most famous person from High School Musical, his solo album. Dance Gavin Dance, who I kind of didn't realize hadn't been around since the beginning of time, but their solo album. Tim Armstrong from Rancid, his solo album was this year. The Pigeon Detectives.
Was that around when he started the Transplants too? Was that
Transplants would have been, I think, was 2003.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. Shop Boys, their one and only album was this year. Miley Cyrus, which is interesting because it's the soundtrack to season 2 of Hannah Montana, but also doubles as her solo album. I think it's a double album. Yeah, St. Vincent, her solo album was this year. Kind of one of those early like redefining pop music individuals. Five Finger Death Punch, who was mentioned, solo album was, or debut album was this year. Sean Kingston, another one who I thought was way earlier than this.
I did too.
Baroness, who's a metal band who has a huge following. Their debut album was this year. Death Clock, because animated metal bands are better than regular metal bands. MGMT, who was mentioned earlier, their solo album was this year, or their debut album was this year. Sorry, I'm just going to keep doing that again. But a solo album that was the debut was Serge Tankian from System of a Down, yes. And he toured for like a year before this solo album and just like didn't stop. I think he played Montreal like 4 times within like a year and a half. And then Jordan Sparks, who was mentioned, solo album.
Another American Idol
debut album. Yes. One Republic debut album. The Dream, who was like a sought after hip hop guy at that point, solo album. And then the most important debut album of the year was none other than DJ Drama.
God, those mixtapes were so amazing though.
Yeah, it's just hilarious to think, going back to like the beginning of Robin Big, when Drama was just the whipping boy cousin who was supposed to be cleaning the house and didn't, and then he had a real music career. Like, so good for him.
Not only that, but he like completely bulked up into looking like an unrecognizable individual. And I mean, like the stuff he did with like Atlantic Records and stuff with modern rappers who I think are absolutely terrible, but somehow he drew them in. It's just such an interesting trajectory to watch.
Yeah. Good for drama. And plus he's getting them. Well, is he ever on Ridiculous or is he just?
To be honest, I can't stand Chanel West Coast, so I don't watch any of Ridiculousness.
That's fair.
Her voice makes
legendary rapper Chanel West Coast.
Her voice makes me want to take a cheese grater to my eyeballs. So I
guess just said a lot of names I don't know.
And consider yourself lucky.
Are you not in the Rob Deerdack hive, Joseph?
I know Robin Big.
Yeah, you're lucky there. So
and that's I'm not even from their show, only from Fantasy Factory, because there was an episode where he bought the Gladiators tennis ball gun, set it up in the warehouse, and it's awesome.
So Gregory, you forgot a couple of my favorite debuts there.
I didn't forget him. I left him off on purpose.
Well, I will talk about when we get there. So Joseph, dive in, my friend.
Got the only one I was tracking.
What do you got for us?
Yeah, kind of a short list, kind of a quick list too. Like I said, there's a lot of music I liked this year, but nothing that like ran me over good. But Finger 11, which was mentioned, Paralyzer, probably their most famous song. Although again, I liked the last album quite a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Anne Boleyn released an album this year with both Hello Alone and Dismantle Repair. Again, not my favorite of the albums, but I really like Anne Boleyn, so they'll probably come up from here on out every time they release an album. A Day to Remember, who I haven't talked about a lot yet, but I will as we continue going through the years. Maybe my favorite band of all time. Hoping to see them next week on the 13th. 2 songs.
But you're not going to see Andrew McMahon?
Probably not, because Sunday is the end of my current class, and I have a lot of stuff due on Sunday, so probably gonna have to skip it. But
I can call you and sing Andrew McMahon songs too, if you'd like.
Okay, can you do it with 3 pianos?
Maybe 2. I don't know how many I can fit now.
But 2 songs off this one I really enjoy. The Plot to Bomb the Panhandle. And Monument. I'll get into A Day to Remember more as we get to I think maybe the next album or the album after. When we get to my favorite, I'll talk ad nauseum about it. Lifehouse had an album this year. The Joke might be my favorite Lifehouse song, actually.
That was a really underrated album. I don't think it got enough love, to be honest.
I can agree there. Just Lifehouse has never been top 10 bands for me, but it also had Disarray, which I also really think is great. Paramore, probably their most well-known song, Misery Business, was this year, but I'll take both Crush 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 and Fences as well off of The Riot. The Used, The Bird and the Worm, this is probably the last time I listened to The Used as they were still producing music. I kind of fell off following them after this song was released, although I'm probably going to get back into it because their show was great. They were wonderful live. Linkin Park, Minutes to Midnight, came out this year. I talked earlier on this podcast about fans getting their heads out of their asses, because when bands do something slightly different, it doesn't take away from the music that already exists. I fell victim to this back in 2007 because when Shadow of the Day came out, I was like, this isn't Linkin Park, this is horse shit. And I kind of stopped listening to them. Going back in retrospect, this album's actually pretty great. Leave Out All the Rest, Shadow of the Day, What I've Done are all great songs.
I don't know if you agree, but I think lyrically it's probably their best album, actually.
I don't know if I'd go that far just because I love early Linkin Park so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I was definitely an idiot in 2007 and definitely needed to pull my head out of my ass at that point.
Well, that's why I texted you the other day.
Mike Shinoda also rapping on this one. Okay.
Well, no, that's why I texted you the other day, because I'd always just I'd listen to it. I love them, but I dismissed that album like almost completely. And then I was just sitting there with myself after digging a giant hole in my yard, and that song came on, and I was just like, holy shit. Like, lyrically, I never really listened to it. It was always just background music to me. I didn't care like about their lyrics since Hybrid Theory, really. And then something about it, I just put the album on start to finish. I was like, holy, Chester wrote a masterpiece with that album.
And they talked about it a lot in interviews and how much they loved writing this album and how much it meant to them. And he even mentioned that like people think Mike's not on this album, but he is. He's just singing on this album. He's doing a lot of the harmonies instead of rapping. And again, I got away from it because I was an idiot at the time, but going back, it's wonderful. Chevelle released, I think maybe their third at this point. Safer Waters, Well Enough Alone are both off this album, and I love both of those songs, as well as I Get It. Foo Fighters I talked about already. All Time Low, Dear Maria Count Me In was mentioned in the fan list, which is just a fun song. Newfound Glory had their second covers album this year, and King of Wishful Thinking was on this one, which they did do live when I saw them a couple weeks ago, and was a lot of fun. Apocalyptica, this was their sixth album, I think. And so they had been around for a really long time, but I Don't Care was the first time I was ever exposed to like rock cello, and it's awesome. So that's got to get a shout out there. Tegan and Sarah, Back in Your Head was released this year, which I really like. Mayday Parade, I didn't like them at the time because his voice is really, Jason Lancaster's voice is incredibly nasally and whiny. But going back, I actually really do enjoy Miserable at Best and Jamie All Over. I get it now. Sarah Bareilles, Love Story, what a flex. I love the story behind it. It's just that's how to do that. You have to make this song. No, I'm not going to. And I will tell the world I'm not going to do that. I don't normally do live albums, but this next one, Daft Punk Alive 2007, I'll make an exception for because it's all like basically mashups of their own music. And their mashup between Around the World and Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger is just a masterpiece. It's so much fun to listen to. That whole album's good. It's just a different take on their stuff. Seether is another band that I kind of started getting away from at this time, pretty much after Fake It and Rise Above this were released. I kind of fell off Seether. I don't even know if they're still making music. But in 2007, I was rocking out to those songs quite a bit.
Seether has actually joined the Machine Gun Kelly massacre. Sean Morgan has joined the fracas.
Okay. I mean, Machine Gun Kelly's got a lot of things come out about him that have nothing to do with him continuing a feud with what a Slipknot, whatever. I don't care.
Whoever he chooses for the week.
I don't care at all about any of it. It's all idiots just talking dumb shit to each other. I don't.
Hey, it's selling songs and concert tickets. That's all I care about.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Coheed and Cambria is this fourth album. Off this one again, I'll talk Coheed and Cambria more as the 2008 album comes out. The Running Free and the Incomplete, though, off this one. Go check them out. The last couple of years, we've talked a lot about music that we discovered on Scrubs. And now I'm going to switch gears a little bit to songs I discovered from Chuck. Band of Horses, No One's Gonna Love You, was featured in one of the earlier episodes of Chuck, I believe, maybe first season. They also show up a couple of different Band of Horses songs show up on the Chuck soundtracks, but and then MGMT, Electric Feel, kind of rounding out my my kind of long list. Moving on to my short list real quick, starting with another MGMT song, Kids. One of our pre-gaming songs when we were in college, we'd listen to this and we'd poke around the dorm rooms. Against Me, Thrash Unreal. There are probably much better Against Me songs I could think of, but this was my introduction to against me. Um, and so it has kind of an important place in my heart. So that's kind of on there on my short list. Sick Puppies, off their debut album, they had a song called All the Same. And this song always reminds me of Evan. Evan was the one who got me into Sick Puppies, and specifically this song. He used to try to play it on his guitar in the dorm room all the time. He just wasn't very good at it, but it was fun to watch him attempt. And then finally got a chance to see them live, which was really cool. And that actually brings me to my song choice of the year, Alicia Keys, No One. I'm not a massive Alicia Keys fan. I appreciate her talent, and I wouldn't even say this is the best Alicia Keys song, but honestly, 2007 was weak for me. But this song is pretty great, so it gets my nomination for 2007.
I love it. That's an epic song, and you may see that pop up on my list as well. So I will enter No One from Alicia Keys, and that actually really surprised me for that year. I did not have that for you. Gregory, my friend, what direction are you taking this in?
Whatever direction I want. Okay, so as Joe and I will talk about, not the best year for us personally, even though it's a great year for music, but a couple bands released albums, or a couple bands I love released albums. So Bright Eyes had an EP and an album this year. Off the EP, Stray Dog Freedom, which features the wonderful Ben Queller. And from the beginning, you can hear Ben Queller's guitar on this. And when they harmonize, both of them have unconventional voices and they shouldn't work together. But that is the kind of thing I love about Conor Oberst, is he harmonizes well, even though he shouldn't be able to. And I think the two of them sound so great on this track together. This is the start of both of them leaning more towards the country feel. So, and oddly enough, this 2020 was both of them coming back to a more like indie rock feel. So their careers are kind of parallel like that. And then If the Brakeman Turns My Way, off the album Casadega, which is just my favorite later day Bright Eyes track. Brother Ali released his second full length, little underrated compared to the last one, but Truth Is, Ear to Ear, and Uncle Sam Goddamn, which is an interesting track. It was the second single off the album, and Verizon had invited Brother Ali to tour with Gym Class Heroes, and then this track came out, and then Verizon booted him because of the anti-American lyrics on this track. So I always have some respect for someone whose music gets them in trouble when it's the right thing. This is the right message. And the exact opposite of that, like probably the poppiest track of this year, was Avril Lavigne's Girlfriend, which might be my favorite Avril Lavigne track because it's just so much fun. I know there was controversy about it because it basically ripped off a song called Boyfriend from decades ago, but I think with like the Olivia Rodrigo thing this year,
Paramore stuff and everything.
Yeah, well, not even the Paramore stuff, but like someone pointed out that one of the tracks is exactly like, I think, Pump It Up by Elvis Costello. And so Elvis Costello took to Twitter to list the fact that he took it, his track basically ripped off Bob Dylan, who basically who ripped off, oh, I'm forgetting who now, but maybe it was Marvin Gaye. So it was like, I just appreciate that Elvis Costello, like, who's just such a musical legend, came in, like, comes in like, that's music, guys. Music evolved from other tracks. So Colin Hay released an album. This is not quite like how Joe said, when artists dip out of there where they've been. This is different than what we've heard before, what we all came to love hearing, Scrubs. But I Wish I Was Still Drinking is my favorite track off that album. T-Pain, who revolutionized music, no matter.
Don't buy you a drink.
Yeah, Buy You a Drink, and then Bartender. What I think, if you are drunk in a bar with a pretty female bartender, at some point that song just pops in your head, whether it's been playing or not. Joe mentioned Chuck, and although I did not discover this band off the Chuck soundtrack, this band to me is just synonymous with the Chuck soundtrack. And this is the Spoon Ga 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 Ga. And not only is synonymous with the Chuck soundtrack, but every track I'm about to list appears on the Chuck soundtrack, and I think at least twice. So you have Don't Make Me a Target, Got Your Cherry Bomb, and Don't You Ever. And Got Your Cherry Bomb and Don't You Ever is my best or my favorite 2-track run. And then the Underdog. And I think Underdog and Don't Make Me a Target are like 3 times throughout the Chuck series this comes in. So you can tell like McGee just loved this Spoon album. But this is like the Spoon soundtrack album, I think, because all these tracks are on multiple soundtracks throughout the years. And Nissan commercials, like this Spoon album is everywhere, whether you realize it or not. You have heard it a lot. Joe mentioned Against Me, New Wave, Thrash Unreal. He's right, there are better Against Me songs, but this is a great one. This is a great introduction to that. And then Born on the FM Waves of the Heart, which features Tegan Quinn of Tegan and Sarah, is another great track. And also another like feature track or feature person on a track with a band you wouldn't necessarily imagine. The Stars released a great album this year, which is basically a concept album. It tells the story of one night. It's also a very sexy album and not one I recommend playing on a first date, but I have done that before. The Night Starts Here is my favorite off that. MIA had a great album this year, but Paper Planes I think is the biggest hit and my favorite off that one. And then probably my album of the year is the second Tilly in the Wall album, which you probably can't see, but it's Bottoms of the Barrels. And Paul Brenner, the percussionist on this, is a tap dancer. So if you want to start tap dancing, I think you guys will take a Joy Wave to new heights if you're there tap dancing. But there's not a bad track off this album. Bad Education, Lost Girls, Love Song, Sing Songs Away is like a 4-song stretch that I think is just flawless. But I have another track coming down that comes before those, could make it a 6-track run if that wasn't in there. But yeah,
it's spicy.
This is like an indie rock supergroup though. Like Jamie, the tap dancer, she was in Park Ave with Connor O'Burse, and then Neely Joe Jenkins was in Park Ave as well, and also sang on a handful of great Bright Eyes tracks. So just a phenomenal album. I just love Tilly in the Wall. This would definitely be my album of the year. But so my short list is going to be an early unreleased Elliott Smith version of Miss Misery, which I think is beautiful off of this. So Miss Misery, I think, was on my short list when it was first released, and now it's on my short list again, just a slightly different version.
I can only imagine how great that sounds on vinyl, honestly.
Well, here's the thing. The Elliott Smith vinyl releases, since they're all like reissued, they clean them up. It's not the same as the original releases. So I've continued to buy them to own them.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially like either or, it just doesn't sound the same.
Yeah.
It's still fun to have on vinyl, but
they defeated the perk of the vinyl.
Yeah. And that's one of those things, the vinyl, when they remaster these releases, I sometimes question it. I'm like, no, just take the original master recording, put it on vinyl.
No, I got you.
2 tracks from Spoon off that same album, because that's how much I love that album. The Ghost of You Lingers, which is like hauntingly beautiful, and My Little Japanese Cigarette Case, which is just really fun. Such a great fucking Spoon album. But my song of the year off Tilly in the Wall is Rainbows in the Dark, which is both fun and encouraging and sad and just everything you want in a song. But outside of the music, I mentioned how many third albums are named after the band. Joss Stone's third album was released this year, and it is called Introducing Joss Stone. Yep. So
nice. I actually have to check that out because I don't think I've heard it, to be honest. So I will definitely add that to my list, and we'll have to add it to the playlist that Joe is building as well. Introduce the world to it there too. So Where am I? And mine's kind of all over the place, to be honest, in terms of like genre. 1, 2, 3, 4 from Feist, the song that you just couldn't get away from, but had no idea what it was from or who did it for the longest time.
I prefer the version she did for Sesame Street.
I need to hear that now because that sounds amazing. James Blunt gave us 1973 Carry You Home and Same Mistake. And this is actually the year that I went on my honeymoon, and the only thing available to listen to on the plane for the music they provided was the James Blunt album. And so I must have listened to that on my flight to the Canary Islands at least 12 times. And I came back a James Blunt super fan by default. Because not only did they have the songs, but the videos were also synced up. So Jimmy World had Chase This Light that year. So they had Always Be, Big Casino, Carry You, Chase This Light. Great album. One of my favorite albums of all time was released that year by the great Colby Calais. Coco came out. With Battle, Bubbly, One Fine Wine, Realize the Little Things. I absolutely love that album. She is one of my favorite songwriters as well. Sean Kingston, he gave us Beautiful Girls Take You There. Jay Holiday gave us Bed and Suffocate. And as far as R&B goes, there was not a lot of great R&B, but those songs kind of kept it alive while rap is just, this is like the dawn of the shitty rap coming out. So it's nice to have some like nice R&B to fall back on if you want that. Believe from the Bravery, Bleed It Out, Hands Held High, No More Sorrow, What I've Done from Linkin Park, all songs that I kind of dismissed over the years just as, yeah, they're Linkin Park songs. Gave them a real listen this past weekend, just kind of reflecting really great stuff. Another one of my favorite albums of all time, Sarah Bareilles' Little Voice came out. She is probably in my top 5 musicians of all time. I absolutely love Sarah Bareilles. My wife hates it because that's what I want to listen to on long car rides, and she wants to stab me with a fork. So Bottle It Up, Gravity, One Sweet Love those tracks from there. Another American Idol alum, Blake Lewis, gave us Break Another, and then his beatboxing career and singing career were just done after that. They really tried to hype it. It didn't work. Broken and First Time from Lifehouse, they were really trying to hang on. They had some great songs on the album they released. Bulletproof Weeks and Come On Get Higher from Matt Nathanson. He is a pompous jackass, but he's a lyrical genius. And he can create the most melodic harmonies out of whatever he tries to do. Burn Your Life Down from Tegan and Sarah. Big fan. I'm actually happy to see that they got love from all 3 of us on this episode. I love Tegan and Sarah. Entrepreneur and Proverbial Liar, Soulja Boy gave us Crank That Soulja Boy, to the dismay of many, but to the delight of many as well. So that existed. Don't Blink from Kenny Chesney. Rihanna had a huge year. Hate That I Love You, Rehab, Shut Up and Drive, on top of, Umbrella and what else has been mentioned. The Umbrella remix with Jay-Z and Chris Brown, but those all really just, I think that was what really put Rihanna on the map as a staple. And then she opted to say, like, yeah, screw it, I'm done with albums. Let's just kick it. Dream Catch Me from Newton Faulkner. I don't remember where I was the first time I heard that song, but the first time I heard that song, it needed to be on every playlist I ever had and just in my life forever. Good Life and Stronger from Kanye. Home and Over You from Daughtry. I actually like that Daughtry album a lot. It was really, really good. Another American Idol alum. And we're going to see them fall off. I keep saying American Idol alum because we're going to hit that point where like that no longer really exists. Matchbox 20, How Far We've Come, These Hard Times. These Hard Times is actually one of my favorite lyrics from Rob Thomas. So really love that track. And How Far We've Come. I love the video more than the song. Flo Rida gave us Low. He's actually really cool. Did a catering session for him at the college when he played. Solid dude. Terrible song. Makes Me Wonder from Maroon 5. Jordan Sparks with One Step at a Time and Tattoo. That Tattoo song was on every closing shift playlist we had at the Union when me and JJ and Roy would close together. Tattoo was on every single playlist we had. So for me, it's more sentimental with that. Paper Planes from MIA, you mentioned it, Greg. That was such a different song, I think you could say. It blended a lot of genres, and it wasn't even all about production. It was what she brought to that track. So it's just I don't even know how to describe it. I just love it.
Because of this MIA album and the fact that this was her second, it always made me think MGMT was older, because in my mind, I associate the two of them in the way they blend genres together.
Yep.
And so I was kind of shocked to be like, oh yeah, that's right. This was the first MGMT album, not a couple of years ago with MIA. So
Right. No, I same spot. Pictures of You from the Last Good Night. I really like that song. I bought the album thinking it'd be good. It was such a terrible album. John Mayer,
Forgot that a song
Stay.
existed.
Oh yeah, great song.
It is.
Sensual Seduction from Snoop Dogg, just because he's got to stay relevant. 17 Forever and Shake It from Metro Station. Those songs are everywhere, and I kind of still enjoy them, though I shouldn't. Sorry from Buck Cherry. Sorry, Blame It On Me from Akon. Sweetest Girl from Wyclef Jean. That song was everywhere and then gone somehow, but I actually really enjoyed that song. It was nice to have Wyclef back.
Are we about to get to like the Haitian charity scandal with Wyclef? Could that be why it disappeared?
Good chance. And then a lot of that was just swept under afterwards, and somehow he came out as like the man again. I don't quite know what happened or what was reported on, because you know how we get our news as opposed to global news and stuff. So
yeah,
that was quite the album for him. It was just everywhere, and it had a lot of features on it that also helped. The Sweet Escape from Gwen Stefani, which I think also helped propel Akon a bit more. The State of Massachusetts from Dropkick Murphys, such a banging track. We had Fall Out Boy, This Ain't a Scene, and Thanks to Memories. Elliot Yamin, another American Idol, Wait for You, was everywhere, and it shouldn't have been, but it was. When You're Gone from Avril, and then Carey Brothers finally released his first full-length album. He is one of my favorite singer-songwriters of all time. A lot of people know him for Blue Eyes on the Garden State soundtrack, or the Tiesto Ride remix, but the Glass Parade, and honestly, if you haven't heard them, please check them out. It's amazing. Now I'm going to get to my top 7. I thought I had a top 5, and then I just couldn't narrow it down. So my top 7 are Taking Chances from Celine Dion. I absolutely love that song. Beautiful song. Ride from Carey Brothers. Falling Slowly from Glenn Hansard. It was from the movie Once, which was just some beautiful music. It's an incredible soundtrack. And the harmonies on the song with Marquita are just, oh my God, so amazing. Many of the Miles from Sarah Bareilles, my favorite track off of that album. That's What You Get from Paramore. Bleeding Love from Leona Lewis, only because Roy, if you're listening and if you're watching, that's my shout out to you. That was our song. We used to sing that to each other while working.
Roy's living that sweet farm life. He doesn't have the internet anymore.
I'm about to text him this song when we're done. Leave Out All the Rest from Linkin Park. Lyrically, I just think that it's such a masterpiece. And my song of the year, though it has already been said by numerous people, including one of us, is No One from Alicia Keys. It's hard for me to come out of this year without that being my top song. And it's just an epic song, and probably my favorite Alicia Keys. So, Joseph, we are united.
We are
united in being wrong about the best song of the year.
I'm putting it into the Hall of Records, or the Microsoft Word document that I track all this on. So 2007 is a wrap.
It is. Oh, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.
I love that Alicia Keys has come up so much simply because there's a huge window where she's just not around anymore. And so the epicness that is her songwriting and the pipe she has is just beautiful. And we are 3 years away from having to make another decision for a song of that era. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get in 08, 09, and 2010. I can say I definitely want
2010, right? That would go to the next decade.
Yeah, I guess we'll start there.
This isn't it 2000 to 2009?
Yeah.
Isn't that how we've been doing it?
That's how we've been doing it.
Okay.
Sure. Why not?
Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hey, glad to be back. I know I definitely started going more indie and singer-songwriter around this time in my life. I just got out of undergrad, just finished that, did the honeymoon, and then went to grad school. So I was listening to a lot of stuff while I wrote. So I know the genres I listen to definitely changed a lot. So I'm curious to see if those stick with me, or if the poppier stuff that I still happen to hear or hear much later, makes my list more. So
I have not started looking at that 2008
I haven't checked out anything
at all yet, but I know I was graduating high school.
Now, Joseph has made a couple playlists the past few episodes for Spotify, so definitely look for those. They're up there. I'm going to start adding content to them this weekend from the lists that we compile from everybody, so that'll start getting up there as well. And does anybody have any shout outs before we conclude for the week?
Shout out for Paul Brenner. I'm telling you, learn to tap dance, Paul. You don't even need to be good. The general public has such an aspiration to see guys tap dance that you look better if all you can do is hit a simple ball and chain. So
I'll co-sign that. I will also shout out to Cool Points newsletter going out every Sunday from yours truly there, Gregory Dilcox. And I know that we stress mental health awareness here, but from October through December of every year are the biggest upticks in mental health crises and suicide rates. And so check on your loved ones, check on your friends, check on that person at the grocery store that just seems down. Just do it. It's our duty as a human. So just check in.
To handcuff something to that is a friend posted that they were finally diagnosed for an issue they've had their whole lives. And it made me think about the fact that I'm ADHD diagnosed, but this was like, I think 90 I was diagnosed, and the doctor's solution was Ritalin, which thankfully my mother turned down, but especially at that time, I had no information. So I grew up with a diagnosis that I had ADHD, I had some rage issues, but I had no information beyond that. I've learned more about this disease I've dealt with my whole life from memes on the internet.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling something, get the diagnosis. Like, mental health has come so much further along in that. So it's amazing to have seen on Facebook in the last, I think, years with the isolation, the number of people that are coming to terms with these things. I mean, to hear stories about people that become adults before they realize they're dyslexic, which is, it's crazy that that stigma has been there. But yeah, get it checked out. Like, there's experts in this field that want to help you. So
I've been thinking about going and getting checked out. I think I have ADHD as well. But
well, and some of the things I've like learned and read about in the meme, like, they're definitely qualities you and I share. I know, to bring up Roy for the third time this episode, how
yay, Roy.
You and I would always sit on the floor, and it was something his lovely, wonderful wife Ashley commented on, because it's not the most common thing to walk into a house with two really nice couches and there's just two guys sitting on the floor. But I guess that's something a lot of people with ADHD suffer or have in common, is there's something like calming about a floor. And you and I have always been floor sitters. You can walk into an empty room and see Joe and I sitting on a floor with no one else on the furniture. So,
and I think you just found a new band name.
Floor sitting.
The Floor Sitters.
So yeah, if you're feeling anything, just, I mean, the internet has a lot of great resources, so you can check and see if like you're on the right thing. Because if this stuff goes unchecked and undiagnosed, it can become a bigger problem. I know I myself had to learn to kind of control my anger on my own, and it would have been nice to have more help than a doctor's prescribed Ritalin. That
yeah.
So yeah.
As somebody who helps other people, I also get help. So it's there's many layers to that. So it's important to see somebody talk about things, and your friends can go so far, but a stranger who has nothing invested in your life other than your actual care can go much farther than you would ever think. So it's resources, talk to people. We're all pretty accessible. So if you should need anything, check in. It's just a good thing to do for yourself.
And of course, if you're worried about, I know mental health isn't expensive or isn't cheap, and it's not covered by a lot of insurances. But I mean, there are definitely, even if you're not religious, there are plenty of churches with trained counselors that want to help you.
Yeah.
There's definitely resources in your community to reach out to. Hell, start a GoFundMe, send it to us, we'll share it. Like,
yeah, we got you covered. And with that, folks, we will see you in 2008, a year that none of us have yet to explore. So it's going to be a journey. And gentlemen, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks. See you next week.
Battle of the Ballads rocks on.